one of the interesting things about the reaction to my film, Am I Racist, is that, as you've heard, of course, mainstream film critics won't review it. And yet mainstream journalists have written many think pieces about it. There have been more think pieces about the film than reviews of it. So our think piece to review ratio is maybe the highest in the history of cinema. I'll have to check with Guinness on that, but I feel like it's the highest. And now we have yet another think piece. This is from the New Yorker. And credit to the New Yorker for covering the film. I'm glad they did. And I do give them credit for that. Even though the writer, Vincent Cunningham, it will shock you to learn, did not enjoy the film. So he didn't like it. Doesn't seem like he liked it very much. But he did write about it. It's a lengthy article. If you go to New Yorker, thenewyorker.com, you can see it. Here's the headline. Is Matt Walsh trying to make Am I Racist the Borat of the right? In his work with the Daily Wire and in a new movie, the conservative podcaster and activist tries to expose the hypocrisies of the left. It's the headline. I'll read a little bit of this. It says, the movie, directed by Justin Folk, is supposed to be a comedic documentary about the opportunistic follies of the diversity, equity, and inclusion industry, something a red-pilled Sacha Baron Cohen might make. The podcaster and commentator Matt Walsh interviews professional anti-racists and, eventually donning a bad disguise, infiltrates DEI seminars and tries to push them toward absurdity. Well, we already have a problem here. Not the part where he says that I'm a red-pilled Sacha Baron Cohen. That's great. I mean, that's maybe the most flattering compliment I've ever received in my career. You know, that part I like. But the part where he says that in the film I try to push these DEI people toward absurdity, well, no, I mean, you already don't understand the point of the movie because I don't push them there. Not really. They're already there. I'm just revealing the absurdity. I'm not pushing them to it. I'm just giving it a platform, is all. Reading on a bit more, it says, skipping ahead a bit, this is the first theatrical release by the Daily Wire. In an earlier movie, What is a Woman, from 2022, which, well, I think you already get that one too, also features Walsh and was released directly to Daily Wire subscribers. For the most part, Walsh is a small screen presence on his podcast, video clips of which he posts on Facebook. He's an often sincere, frankly moralizing presence. Adults don't have time to be sick, he advised recently. Taking sick days from work, he added, should be embarrassing. He also wants to tell you here in 2024 what have been the negative effects of changing the name of the football team in Washington, D.C. from the Redskins to the Commanders after dropping the former name in 2020. When Miami Dolphins wide receiver Tyreek Hill was recently jostled by Miami-Dade policemen reliably, Walsh was there to break down the footage and show you how the whole thing was Hill's fault. Well, it was. In the videos, he addresses the camera directly, lowering one eye or another toward the lens whenever he gets an especially grave point to get across. He usually wears a dad plaid shirt. If you put him on mute, you might think he was one of the Prius-driving lefties living in Portland or Seattle, one of those whose hackles his whole career is organized around raising. So a lot of stuff that has nothing to do with the movie here, of course. I like how he says that I'm sincere and then immediately references my joke about how adults should never be sick. Walsh is usually a very sincere person. For instance, he said that adults should never, ever be sick. A joke that, of course, like millions of morons took entirely seriously. Yeah, guys, I literally think that it's not ever okay to be sick when you're an adult. That, under any circumstance. If you're dying of a communicable disease, if you're in your final moments of life, I think you should drag yourself to work at Home Depot and die on the job. That is literally what I think, obviously, right? I mean, of course. That couldn't be comedic hyperbole, could it? I must mean that totally liberal. There could not possibly be even a shred of intentional hyperbole in that statement. Yes, you're all right about that. So anyway, I also don't understand how wearing dad plaid, as he says, also makes it look like you drive a Prius, because those two aesthetics don't really go together, I would think, but whatever. So then he goes on, and I'm not going to read the whole thing, be a bit self-serving too, but it's a good article, I think, all things considered. Talks about Judged, which I like. Instead, I think there are just two takeaways when I read this article. First of all, the article does the same thing that most of the articles in mainstream publications have done when it comes to this movie. He goes on to acknowledge later on in his piece that the Robin DiAngelo part of the movie is effective. I mean, he essentially acknowledges that it's effective. He doesn't say that. He says the scene is the biggest coup of the film. And then he describes what happens there. And then by the end of the article, he does this move that has now become familiar, where he disowns her. He describes her work in this article as simplistic, overly binary, and patronizing. And we've seen this over and over again. The left deals with the film and the way that it embarrasses these people by disowning them. It's not just Robin DiAngelo, but all the people that appear in the film and make fools of themselves. What people like Vincent here do in the media is they say, well, yeah, but they're not really, they don't represent this really. Which, by the way, it's a disingenuous move. It's a bad faith move, but it does mean that Robin DiAngelo's career is over. I mean, it's over. We did end her career. She's been disowned by her own side. And once that happens, then you're done. That's it. It's over. Curtains. And so that's a win. I'll take that win. And then there's this part. I want to read. It's kind of long, but it's the last part of this article I want to read because there's another point here. So it says, toward the end of the movie, Walsh takes his act to two working class communities. One's a largely white biker bar. Don't tread on me, a patch on somebody's jacket says. And then he describes the scene, and then we go talk to black people in New Orleans. He describes that. So if you've seen the movie, you know those scenes. And then he says this, these scenes are the most revealing of the film, but Walsh doesn't know why. He thinks that he's merely pointing out how divorced the language of big anti-racism is from the lives of everyday folks. He misses, though, a grand irony. Even when he's in character, supposedly parroting DEI, he is stunningly fluent in its rhythms. None of the working class people profess to know what he means when he says structural. The answer he offers would go over just fine in the same precincts of Twitter that Walsh wants to troll. This gives away the game, and it shows Walsh to be just as much of a grifter as the admittedly quite shameless DiAngelo and her well-paid, lesser-known ilk. Just like them, he's playing to a small audience of largely white professionals, often deranged by paying too much attention to the worst and stupidest parts of the internet. If the high-priced workshop crowd has the left flank covered, Walsh is shoring up the right. But these two types often work at the same corporation or selective university and follow the same Twitter accounts. They clash over politics, then send their kids to the same schools. Okay. Some of that is just wrong. I don't know what the hell you're talking about. That the people I'm talking to on the right go to the same universities. They work at the same. What the hell are you talking about? No, that's not how it works. Where you've got the left and right, and they work at the same universities. No, they don't. No, they don't. The left owns the university system almost entirely. But anyway, so he says that the scenes with the bikers in the black community in New Orleans are the most effective in the film. But then he says, I don't know why. I, as the person who made the film, I don't know why that's the case. I don't understand my own point. And then he goes on to describe what is the deliberate point of those scenes. Yes, Vincent, exactly. None of the working class people know what I'm talking about. Yeah, that's the point. This whole conversation is far outside the actual lives and experiences of normal people. Yes, Vincent, good job. Good job. You got it. Well done. So this is another thing you see in some of the analysis of the film. You get these people who are quite sure that they're more intelligent than me. And so they say, well, here's the point of that scene, but Walsh doesn't even understand it. Or I've even read, in some cases, people who will point to one of the funny moments of the film, and they'll say, well, that was funny, even though Walsh wasn't trying to be funny. He doesn't understand why it's funny, but it was fun. No, I meant for it to be funny, and I meant to make the points that you're picking up. I mean, you're picking up some other things that you're just from your own delusional mind, but like the basic point of that's the, just because I don't turn to the camera and say, the point of this scene is, just because I don't do that doesn't mean I don't understand my own point. So actually what you're doing, even if you don't mean to do it, is acknowledging some of the subtlety of the film because we are not directly sermonizing. that's what conservative entertainment usually does. We deliberately chose not to do that. And we are trying not to do that. And so if you're picking up points in the movie and you're like, I don't even know if they meant to, there's supposed to be kind of like layers there that you can look at and talk about. And all of it very intentional, in fact. And the fact that this film can provoke a lengthy article in the New Yorker at all, I think proves that there are multiple layers to the film that, yes, are there intentionally. Believe it or not. We made the movie on purpose. Hard to believe, but we did. If you'd like to see what else I have to say, you can access my full show by going to dailywire.com or by going to the Matt Walsh Show Twitter page. Hope to see you there. Godspeed.